Everybody, Pure Potential members, welcome to another live stream. First one with the new branding, new overlay. Hope you guys like it. I see some iHeart PP messages in the chat. This is I have created this problem, and I guess I'll just have to live with it and lean into it. But yeah, good turnout for a 12:15-ish live stream. We got Scotty in the chat here. We got HM, Freelster, Eliezer. We got Gabe, and we got Random Nacho and Nate. And of course, the man, the myth, the legend, Chris Miles is here. Yeah, hope you guys are doing good today. Big changes obviously have been coming to the brand. Very excited about rolling that out. And I just posted a new channel in the members only area called the Launchpad. Basically just kind of passing on some information that's either stuff you probably already know or stuff that's just common sense, but the membership has been growing exponentially, and it's awesome, and I absolutely love it, and I'm incredibly grateful. But I haven't had the chance to be as kind of interactive with every individual member as I was early on, and I don't want anybody to get lost, slip through the cracks. I don't want anybody to be confused about how things work. So just posted some basic etiquette rules, posted some information about how to use the different channels and what the different channels are for. So hopefully that's helpful. Something that was on my to-do list for a while, and I decided to just knock it out today, which is why I'm a couple minutes late. I literally just posted it. But yes, Russell, this is no longer a Chargers fan account as it looked like originally. Honestly, I've been looking forward to doing a rebrand for a long time. I made that logo originally for the Pure Potential podcast, and on Spotify the logo is square, and it was like a line, like a graph with like an X and a Y axis, and then the lightning bolt was supposed to be like the line on the graph going up. It was a cool concept, but it was also very like crudely put together in Photoshop. It was not professional. And then it didn't make sense at all when it was on YouTube and Discord in like a circle form. You couldn't even see the graph part anymore. So it was just a lightning bolt. Yeah, it all needed to be redone, but I'm definitely loving the new direction that we're taking here. Even though had to just take a giant L on Quinshon Judkins. Oh, wait, you don't see anything? Oh, wait, hold on. Let me fix the... Nikolai says he doesn't see the message. Let me fix that. I think I accidentally checked off... I was checking off all the different permissions so that nobody would send messages or whatever. And then I think I turned off read message history. If you check it out now, Nikolai, do me a favor and check it now and see if you can see the message inside of it. Anyway, I do want to talk about Quinshon Judkins for a second, just because that was quite a development here. Obviously, terrible timing on the rookie rankings video coming out. And honestly, since you guys are members, I kind of assume you already understand my process well enough to kind of get where I was coming from. But just the idea here with Judkins was like, certainly there were outcomes where he could pay off a lower price tag and could certainly surpass guys like Jaden Higgins in the rankings. But taking into account all the possible outcomes, I thought there was enough risk there to be hands off with it, especially when Judkins wasn't a guy that I was terribly high on in the first place. And so, like, if I could go back and change the video, knowing what I know today, he would be ranked higher. But I don't feel bad about the process that got me there. And frankly, this wasn't on anyone's radar. Like, all the people taking their victory laps that were like, Judkins was always going to play. Nobody was saying this was going to happen. Nobody was saying that the Chargers would literally just be dropped out of nowhere with no warning and that he would be able to just return to the team. Like, what I thought was going to happen was at minimum, he was going to be suspended for 6 games, and he could still get suspended for a few games. But that totally changes the math where if he doesn't play for those 6 games, I think the dynamic between him and Dylan Sampson could be really a lot different. Whereas if he does return to the team right now and he's able to get in some practice reps, he's able to get some preseason action, doesn't even get suspended, I think his draft capital is still going to weigh heavily enough that he's going to have the upper hand in the competition. So I do think it really changes the equation. But I just wanted to go over that. I will say, I still think it's possible that Dylan Sampson could be the better player. I still think it's possible that the extra time that he has had with the team could make a difference for their workload split. It would not floor me if this became more of an even split or more of like a 60-40 split between the two. Or if Sampson somehow became like the third down back to limit upside. So there's still a lot on the table. I'm not putting Judkins all the way back where I had him ranked initially. And not a guy that I'm necessarily going out to try to get now, obviously, because his value is going to be shooting way up. But certainly if you were holding him through this or you did buy him low, you made out well. And if I advised you against doing that in what would now be a really advantageous trade, then I apologize. But I was certainly only telling you what I would have done myself. I did not add any shares, didn't add any shares during this whole episode. So anyway, with that out of the way, we are going to do the mock draft, but I wanted to get to a couple. It's not a mock draft. It's like a prediction. We're going to do a prediction of next year's startup ADP, just kind of a fun thought exercise, kind of talk through what could happen this year, what maybe the most likely scenario would be. But yeah, let me get to some of these things here in the chat as well. A guy in our league spent his entire fab budget on Isaiah Bond, trying to wrap my head around why. Sounds like someone who doesn't care about draft capital and just thinks that player talent equals player production. Like, I mean, Isaiah Bond is a much, much better wide receiver prospect than the average undrafted player, because obviously he would have gone like round 2, round 3 at the latest if he didn't have these legal problems. But the reality is he didn't go in round 2 or round 3. There is no investment from the team. And he's got his work cut out for him to carve out a role. And even if he does, he's on a bad team. So yeah, I mean, I added him in some leagues where I could. I spent a couple dollars on him in certain leagues, especially my Dynasty best ball leagues. I spent a few dollars on him. But yeah, I mean, spending your entire budget is a little bit crazy for, frankly, a serious dart throw. Russell asks, can you go through your mindset of having Chase Brown as RB13 and Breece as RB9 with a multiple tier gap? Yeah, this is just about talent conviction for me, and certainly this season could go a long way in kind of recalibrating that. But Breece Hall has pedigree that Chase Brown just doesn't, where he came into the league obviously as a highly drafted second round pick, and he's been highly thought of since his rookie year as far as his talent, like the narrative surrounding him in the real NFL, in fantasy football. And so knowing that does kind of gain him a little bit more credence from me as like maybe a little more value insulated type of running back. Now, certainly the decisions the Jets are making that harder to justify. But with Chase Brown, he's kind of like he's just kind of a slightly better version of the Kyren Williams bet to me, where at the end of the day, he's still a day 3 back who, sure, he survived this round of the NFL, of draft, of free agency, and he's the top dog this year, and he's going to get a lot of work. Does that mean I genuinely believe he's a difference maker, or do I genuinely believe that he's going to get a $40 million contract sooner, especially being on the Bengals where they don't pay anybody? I just think that there's some concerns about the longevity there with the bet. Whereas with Breece Hall, like, I don't know, maybe this is naive. I still feel pretty confident that after this season, he's still only going to he's going to turn 25, I think, next offseason at some point. I think he goes and signs with a different team that wants to feature him, and he's going to have multiple suitors, I think, because I just believe he's a really good player. So yeah, it's just about like conviction about the player in general. And maybe as we see, if it turns out early in the season that this split is as dramatic as the Jets are hinting it could be, and Breece Hall is like suddenly scoring way less than we think, then yeah, I'm going to have to adjust. But his ranking is still kind of a hedge that through pass catching work, he can do enough to give us that kind of like low end RB1 production at the very least. But we'll see. He could definitely be a big mover in the rankings early in the year. All right. As far as questions that were asked prior to the stream, Kevin asked, oh, hold on. Let me get to these in order. The earliest question that was asked was from Eleazar, who is here. Now, he said he'd appreciate a video, and it's one of the topics I have on my list that I might get to before the season starts, but I can certainly talk now about how to transition a high-value team into a stronger contender. Can this be done without giving up players already in my starting lineup or trading away first-round picks? Or is the idea to tier up a starter by including a second-round pick or another mid-tier player? Should I be approaching teams who are non-contenders first? An explanation would be helpful. So building a high-value team is kind of the whole goal when you do a rebuild, is you're trying to create a ton of buying power for yourself so that you can then go out and compete. If you never get to the go out and compete part, then you're kind of missing the point of the tanking part. And so if you genuinely have a high value team, like you're the first or second most valuable roster in your league because you have a bunch of firsts, you have young players, you do want to be spending some of that value to go out and get points. You don't want to just sit, as I said in a video a long time ago, you don't want to just sit on your pile of gold like a dragon that is just unwilling to part with any of it. Like, that's not the point. So you still want to subscribe to the idea of trading your non-scarce assets first. So if you have a bunch of kind of replaceable level starters on your team, I do think taking those guys and kind of packaging them together in like 2-for-1 deals or adding seconds on top of them. I think it's a good idea to go out and try to make those types of deals first, because then you can get upgrades without giving up anything scarce. And yes, I would go to non-contenders. If there are teams in your league that you know for a fact are not contending, like they've said that they want to rebuild and everyone's on the block, or just even if you think they might go to that route, if you can get there first and say, hey, I don't know if you're thinking about rebuilding, but I would make a generous offer for Chase Brown. I would make a generous offer for AJ Brown. If you can get there first, you might get the best deal. But yeah, I want to be doing that. If I have a bunch of first round picks, I am absolutely not opposed to trading some of those. You do not have to acquire a first round pick and then hold it until the time that it conveys. I want to be trading 26 firsts now rather than 27, because they're going to fetch more in return generally. Even though people talk about like, I want 27 ones, I still think most of the time the immediate payoff of the 26 first is more appealing to people. And also, if you're trading those picks, you have a better idea of where they're going to land. So I'd be taking whatever 26 firsts out of that group that you have look late. See if you can package those up with replaceable starters, and can you get into the elite tier? Can you get into a Brian Thomas, a Puka Nacua, CeeDee Lamb? Can you get... I kind of think Bijan and Gibbs are just like almost unattainable right now. Like, I don't even know if it's worth offering for them, but certainly getting those guys, getting Ashton Genty, getting Amari and Hampton even. You can trade for rookies too with these firsts that you think have the chance to put up elite production during this season. That's what you want to be doing. So start with the non-scarce assets, work your way up to the more scarce assets, upgrade your starters. 2-for-1 trades, I think, and even 3-for-1 trades where you might be worried about losing some depth. I think those are good deals to make, because you can always backfill that depth with picks later. If you have to, you can find cheaper guys to fill those spots. So that's what I'd be doing to transition those teams. And it's a good idea for a video. I think I have something like that written down. I just haven't had the bandwidth to get to it right away. Chris, I will add Bond to the rankings down in the dart throw area, like the bottom tier. I probably won't put him at the very end of it, but somewhere in that zone. I just need to remember to do it. All right. Kevin asked, on your next stream, talk about how many starting quarterbacks you're willing to take in a startup. I think you mean startup draft. Quarterbacks seem to have fallen a lot since your startup guide. Man, yeah, that's tough. I don't know if I could say like an exact number. For me, it just comes down to the gap in value between the players. Like I'm just not ever going to take, I'm just never going to take like Saquon Barkley or JSN over Drake May. Like, it's just not going to happen. I'm not going to take Devonta Smith or Chris Olave over Trevor Lawrence, right? Like, if it's a 12-team super flex league, I just don't think I can do it. And I feel like some of these crazy quarterback discounts are going to shift. Like, you can get in, I mean, I think quarterbacks have genuinely been devalued from where they were a couple years ago. But I think that this current deflation of the position, it's basically because of a startup meta. Like, the meta is a self-fulfilling prophecy where everybody's like, wait on quarterback, and then everybody does wait on quarterback, and then the quarterbacks go later and later. Like, it's just this infinite feedback loop. When you get into the actual season, some people are going to have these absolutely paper-thin quarterback rooms where players are going to fail, and the things that their best made plans are going to go awry. We're going to see starters get injured. Like, I think that bubble is going to pop pretty quickly. And so you might be afraid to take on a couple of extra starting quarterbacks because you're worried about the flexibility in season. I'd be pretty surprised if you don't have options to trade some of those quarterbacks in season. That being said, I'm still more than willing to go and take a player that I have ranked after a quarterback as long as it's within reason. Like, I will take James Cook over Bryce Young. That's fine. If I need a running back, I'm not going to force the issue if Bryce Young is going to be my fourth quarterback. I'm fine to take Matthew Golden over Justin Fields, right? Like, I'm fine to take Jaden Higgins over Justin Fields. Like, you don't have to just take the highest ranked quarterback every time you're on the clock. And the further you go down the board, the more compressed those tiers get. And so the more you can kind of justify reaching further down. Like, do I want to take James Conner over Geno Smith? No, but if you have 4 quarterbacks and 1 running back and Geno Smith's there and James Conner's there, I don't think it's a big deal if you want to take James Conner, because the difference between the middle of the early 2 tier and the early part of the base 2 tier is not that much value that you're giving. You're not sacrificing that much value to make that pick. So yeah, I mean, I don't want to take more than 4 or 5, certainly. But I think you have enough flexibility within tiers. I think you have enough flexibility when it comes to trading your picks. You shouldn't ever be forced into that spot of taking more than that. Gabe says, I took Tua at the end of the 8th and Geno at the end of the 12th. Wait to sell until midseason. Are you saying that those are extra quarterbacks that you don't need? Because, I mean, you don't have to sell those guys just to sell them. Do you have multiple other starting quarterbacks? If so, I mean, I just think right now nobody's trying to go out and get quarterbacks right now unless they've already put themselves in a spot where they don't have 2 that can start in week 1. Like, even if they only have 2, most people don't care that much about filling the QB3 spot before the season. So I think you're just more likely to get a good return on investment mid-season. That's all I'm saying. When there's just going to be more need at quarterback, I think. Now, if you wait too long, what happens is teams start to rebuild, and then those teams are getting rid of their quarterbacks, and then suddenly there's sort of an influx. So it can be tricky to time. But yeah, if you have a 4th quarterback and you really want to sell them, you should try to be like ready to go. The second you think someone needs a quarterback, like, go ahead and hit that button. Go out and send a DM, send an offer, and just try to be reasonable about it, right? You don't have all the leverage because you don't control the supply. So you don't need to be incredibly demanding, but just try to get a fair swap for something that helps you is what I would be doing. Nikolai, with the last question I want to get to, or no, there's one other quick one. If you have time, I was wondering if you give your thoughts on this problem. If you have a contending roster, need a significant upgrade at running back, what's the best way to go around buying a running back from a roster? Are you looking to just buy a cheaper vet like Connor, or spend a slight premium for a Chase Brown? A lot of times I find that both of these assets cost more than what the rankings have them valued, requiring an overpay. I guess what I'm trying to get at is, would you rather overpay for an older vet who might not have value insulation, or overpay for an asset who has value insulation? It's a thoughtful question. It's definitely one of the bigger problems that I see with like team breakdowns, where people don't have running backs because they're coming out of a rebuild and now they're worried about who they're going to start. And this is not really a great time. I mean, just to be honest, it's not a great time to be buying running backs, because it's all about the projectable volume right now, and people are looking at their lineups and they want to feel secure. They want to feel like they have their starters. They want to have their depth pieces. So it's tricky. I will say just one quick nitpick about your question. I wouldn't list Chase Brown as an asset with value insulation. I don't know if you were implying that, but you said Connor and Chase Brown, and then you kind of split those into two categories. I would view Chase Brown as a 1-year investment with everything else kind of being a bonus. I don't think he's necessarily safer than like a James Conner. I value him a little bit higher just because he's younger, so there is more theoretical longevity there. But I wouldn't just bank on that's a guy I can start for multiple seasons. Like it can still change quickly. Certainly this type of workload that we're projecting this year can change quickly. But that being said, I'm not opposed to buying him. And I think you need to just cast a wide net right now, where you just need to be willing to get whatever can get you through the early part of the season. So like before Judkins was back, like Jerome Ford made sense. Jerome Ford made sense as a fill-in guy that you could potentially start week 1 and you could get him for basically nothing. I think Tony Pollard is a guy that maybe you can get from a team for a 2nd-round pick that should have a really good start to the season at the very least, with Tajay Spears suffering the high ankle sprain. You can look at James Connors for sure. You can look at David Montgomery, or you can get up into the Chase Brown, Kenneth Walker tier, RJ Harvey. Do what you have to do. I'm the one thing I absolutely don't want to do is overemphasize how important that week 1 starting running back is and go out and send a first for a non-scarce, non-difference making asset. Don't want to do that. I don't want to be taking like a big value loss just to fill that spot, because at the end of the day, you can start someone that gives you 6 points in your RB2 spot and you can win. Like I did the video about James Conner for this exact reason. It's like one starter in 1 week is very unlikely to make any impact on your team. And so you want to be, in general, you want to be trying to stack your bench with backup running backs and high upside contingency bets, and just kind of have a little bit of faith that you can piece together running back production when you need to, and hope that there are other teams in your league that are going to start rebuilding at some point and you can go ahead and buy their running backs. Because you absolutely don't want to be in the position of like chasing and overpaying for running backs because you didn't have the foresight to be prepared. Right? That just sucks. So I would preach patience, I guess, above all in that case. But if you really do the legwork, you can probably find someone in your league that has a somewhat usable running back that they don't really feel that strongly about, that they don't need to keep. And you can hopefully get that hole patched even temporarily, and you can search for a better option later. All right, last question from DRV, and then I'm excited to get into this ADP thing. Is there a late round dart throw that gains, if there is a late round dart throw that gains value, is it better to sell and take the profit, or just wait it out if there's upside, or is it player dependent? It is definitely player dependent, unfortunately. And I think I answered a similar question to this on a previous stream, but no big deal. But basically I'm looking at the player, and like the archetype of player they are matters to me, and kind of just thinking through the reasonable outcomes is something I always want to be doing. Like Dante Thornton, right, has had a value gain from where he started. I have very little conviction that Dante Thornton, I don't know how you pronounce it. I don't have a lot of conviction that he's like a real thing. Like he's like a long-term guy that has upside, because he just doesn't profile as anything more than a situational deep threat. So if I paid nothing for him, if I drafted him or for in the late 4th or picked him up off the waiver wire, and I can now flip him for 2 third-round picks, I'm pretty happy to take that, because I just don't really see the upside. On the other hand, I traded Tank Dell preseason of his rookie year for a future second, because I thought this is a really old wide receiver prospect who went in the 3rd round, whatever. Like, I don't really care. He's super duper small. Like, he probably can't even handle the NFL. And I mean, that sort of turned out to be true. I don't really think his size was why his knee got absolutely destroyed, but it worked out in the end where like I took a second and he gained a lot of value and then he lost a lot of value. But the point being, at times you could easily sell him for a first. So it happens. Chris, I would say this is almost the opposite though, where I think he's talking about players that gain value like now before the season starts or really early in the season. Whereas like with James Robinson and Dameon Pierce, if you held on to them a little bit longer beyond their first little hype boost, you were able to get a much better return later. So I think you just kind of have to play the odds. I will say this. Once the games start, if there is a late round dart throw that looks absolutely sick on the field, like if they are demanding a bunch of targets or they're super efficient or whatever, like Puka Nacua, right? You do not want to be selling Puka Nacua after week 1 when he gets 20 targets. If your late round dart throw is putting something on data or putting something on tape that is like genuinely exciting and interesting, it's not time to sell for a profit at that point. It's time to wait and see, because generally speaking, when these guys are really great early on, they continue to be really great. I sold Bucky Irving too soon in a few leagues because he was really efficient. He was making good plays. And I was like, Rashad White's there. He's a 4th rounder. He's undersized. He's not athletic. What's the upside really, right? The upside's capped. And I sold Bucky Irving in multiple spots, and then the talent won out and he got a bunch more work and he gained a bunch of value. So I do think it's case by case. I think you need to think about what's the realistic upside. And I'm definitely weighing what I see on the field way, way, way higher than whatever coaches are saying or what the snap counts are in preseason. Like, I want to see results. But certainly there are players I have more or less conviction in, like Elijah Arroyo. I don't see the path for him. Like, I don't see it clearly enough for me to want to hold him over what people are offering in a lot of leagues. But at the same time, I could be wrong. And so you don't have to just go out and sell him for whatever, especially if you do personally like him or think he's good. So hopefully that's helpful. You could always ask me about a specific player, but that's the general idea. Now, shift over here to the mock draft view. Let me see here. There we go. All right. So here's the idea for today, for the rest of this stream. We'll see if we get through 4 rounds or not. It depends how much I talk and how much you guys weigh in. But what we're going to do is look ahead into the future. Look ahead into the future. It's kind of redundant. Oh, I need to fix something here. I forgot. I need to change the roster settings and add kickers. There we go. We're going to look into the future, and I'm going to do my best to predict what a Dynasty startup draft might look like in April of 2026. I've chosen April because that is when we get to the more efficient rookie prices for rookie picks. And I will be using kickers as rookie picks because, for one thing, I can't put actual rookies in here. And for a second, I don't actually know who the top rookies are going to be. So I'm just going to kind of estimate where I think the 101, the 102, the 103 would slot in to these rankings or to these to this ADP. And certainly this is just one look at it. There are like infinite possible outcomes here. I'm just plucking out one that I think is very possible. And if I had to like pick out one universe out of the infinite possible outcomes, this is the one I would pick, is kind of what I'm saying. Now, I did not do a definitive list all the way through. I took down some notes. I'm still going to kind of talk through some of these things as I go and like improvise a little bit, but it should be interesting to see. And we're going to start out with something very easy here. Jaden Daniels is going to be the 101 in 2026 startup drafts. It just makes sense. The dude is absolutely sick. He runs like crazy. He's significantly younger than Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. I think Josh Allen is 30 or is about to be 30. I don't think that 30-year-old Josh Allen's holding down the 101 spot next year. And I think Lamar is always going to have a little bit of like, he's not quite there at the 101. Like, I don't know if it's people thinking that he's injury prone or people thinking he's not a passer or just people thinking he's not going to age well. I don't know what it is, but I'd be shocked. I'd be shocked if anybody other than Jaden Daniels is the 101 next year. But I do think that our next two guys will hold on for at least one more year. I think we get Allen and Lamar holding on to these spots. Could be wrong. Josh Allen turns... I was wrong about Josh. He's actually 29 for the whole year. I was thinking of Mahomes maybe. Josh Allen turns 30 in May, so he will be 30 all of next year. Lamar Jackson is 28. He turns 29 in January. Jaden Daniels will be 26 next year, I believe. So that's what we're going to do first. Simple enough. Then it gets tricky because the quarterback position really does drop off here. Like, it's not going to be Burrow. I don't think Hurts is ever really going to flip back over top of the elite wide receivers and tight ends again. Tight ends being Brock Bowers. So I think there's a few contenders for this spot. One of them would be Malik Neighbors, who I think can be the overall wide receiver one in Dynasty. I think is most likely to be the overall wide receiver one in Dynasty next year. Jamar Chase is certainly in contention. The thing about Jamar Chase is that he's going to be 26 in March. And that's not that old. But it is old enough that I think it could give people pause in the first round, the early first round of startups, where people kind of start doing the math on like, how many more peak seasons am I really getting? And I think unless people are really expecting him to be leaps and bounds better than a player like Malik Neighbors, I think they're just going to take the 4-year age discount. But honestly, I'm going to follow my heart here, and this is what I genuinely believe. I think it's Brock Bowers. Assuming this is half-point tight end premium, I think it's Brock Bowers. I think this guy is insane. I think he's just... I really like the argument that Jacob Sanderson was making with people on Twitter. If you didn't see it, he was arguing about his underdog ADP, where it's no tight end premium, it's half PPR. But his argument was basically like, why are you looking at Brock Bowers as a tight end? His deployment, his actual NFL deployment is much more similar to Drake London, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Puka Nacua than it is to tight ends, than it is to like your average tight end. It's just not true. He is much more like an F wide receiver is what you call, like a big slot, where he does play some in line, but he also plays a lot in the slot. He plays some out wide. He is insane in all of those places. He's great after the catch. He demands an insane target share. I think the positional advantage is back after this year, and I think he genuinely can put up 20 points per game. And because the position is so vacant after him and McBride, and maybe Loveland, we'll see. I think he can do enough this year to get into that spot. Again, I think the Geno Smith upgrade is huge for the quarterback position. I think this offense could be much more efficient in general. I think he scored 5 touchdowns last year. There's absolutely no reason that this guy can't score 10 touchdowns on top of the insane target domination. He could score more than 10 touchdowns. I just think there's a lot here. I think there's a lot here for Bowers. This is such like a non-ball knower take. Like, Trey McBride is not better than Brock Bowers. Like, it's just Trey McBride is one of the absolute best tight ends in the NFL. Brock Bowers is a unicorn. Like Brock Bowers he is just a completely different guy. I'm telling you, like if they played on the same team, Brock Bowers would absolutely lead in target share. He would lead in targets. Like he would be the better player. I feel incredibly strongly about that. Going back to an earlier question from MJR, do you think what happened to CJ Stroud could happen to Daniels? No, I really, really don't. I don't think so. I mean, first of all, I just think he's better, but I also just think his floor is way higher. Like Random Nacho said, he's just going to run so much. That just raises the floor. Like CJ Stroud finished as like QB 23 in points per game. Jaden Daniels cannot finish as QB 23 in points per game. It's not possible. And I think that the infrastructure around Stroud collapsed in such a unique way. It's just really hard to predict that happening. I'm not pattern matching those two is basically the point. Then at 5, I'm going to go with Malik Neighbors, the Dynasty wide receiver 1 after 2024, probably, possibly, maybe, in this world. I said 2024. Oh my gosh. After the 2025 season, Malik Neighbors. And then I'll go ahead and put Jamar Chase. I don't think he's going to fall that far past where he was. I think there are definitely outcomes where he does. Like if Burrow was to get hurt, if he was to get hurt, I'm not going to do any injury predictions though, because like that could happen to anybody. As far as a healthy season for Burrow and Chase, I just don't really think. I don't think he's going to fall any further than this, or at least not much further than this next year. If I'm looking at the list of players, like who could realistically jump him. I guess, I don't know. Like, I guess there's no reason Jalen Hurts couldn't, in the sense that he could just score 20 something points per game again. I just don't think he would, to be honest. Like, just psychologically, I don't think drafters are going to do that. I don't think any running backs are going to go ahead of Jamar Chase. I do think Brian Thomas has a legitimate chance to be in that spot. I think he has a better shot than Lamb or Amon-Ra do, because he's young. He's just younger. And like, if he can put up that type of production at his age, then it just is hard to beat. But I am going to leave Chase there. The only other player, dark horse, would be Drake May. I think Drake May could, and I'm going to rank him pretty highly in this. But I'm not going to put him ahead of Chase. And then this is where it gets difficult. I don't know why I'm saying that. Like, it's been difficult at every spot. But I don't think it's going to be Burrow. I don't think it's going to be Jefferson. Like, Justin Jefferson, it just kind of sneaks up on you. Justin Jefferson is 26 now, will be 27 next June. He's amazing. But I just think at a certain point, it's like, you have to go for some of these younger players, I think. So I struggle to put him there. This is where I'm very torn. I think it could be so many different players in this spot. I want to hear from you guys. Who do you think goes in this spot between Hurts, Jefferson? Who else even is in contention for this spot? Brian Thomas, Drake May, Trey McBride, Drake London. I don't know. This is a hard one. Let me get to the chat for a second. Max says, odds Puka passes Chase. I think incredibly low, to be honest. I just think you look at the Matt Stafford situation right now, even if he stays healthy all year, I think there's very good odds that we see Stafford retire, or just see more speculation that he retires. I just think the changing in the situation versus Chase just having Burrow is going to be enough for him to stay ahead, because you're never going to see Puka projecting for, like, even if he was to project for more points than Chase, which I think is unlikely, it wouldn't be by much. And so people are going to defer to the more stable situation there. I think I think it can still be Jefferson here if JJ McCarthy really does hit in a big way. But man, I really do struggle with it. I don't know, man. I'll go Jefferson, and then I'll go Hurts. It's a safe bet, right? I think it's a safe bet that we see Jefferson Hurts there in some order. Maybe it's Hurts Jefferson, maybe it's Jefferson Hurts. Certainly another player could jump into this conversation, but I think that's a safe bet for where they could go. Chris, Malik Neighbors doesn't have no quarterback. He has Jackson Dart at quarterback. And if he doesn't have Jackson Dart next year, it's because the Giants are high enough in the draft to take an exciting rookie. I don't know that the Rams are going to be high enough in the draft to take an exciting rookie. I don't know. And they don't have any succession plan after Matt Stafford. And I think there's a large enough contingent of the Dynasty community that sees Neighbors as like a unique unicorn type of talent and views Puka as more of a product of Stafford and McVay. You can see Yella in the chat, who's, as far as Dynasty players go, very intelligent. And even he is dumb enough to think that Puka is like somehow scheme dependent. So I think the vibes on these two guys are very different. Also, Neighbors is 2 years younger even than Puka is. And so I just think if you can get Neighbors within a few points per game of the Chase Puka group, he's just like the age advantage that you're getting, the security you're getting with the age is just, it seems so safe. So that's what I'm thinking. Then we're going to let's get into some spicier selections here. Let's go with Brian Thomas at 9. I'm a huge Brian Thomas believer. He is also currently 22 years old. I think he could go absolutely nuclear this season. And again, it's an age thing. And if he has Trevor Lawrence and he has Liam Cohn and this offense is as good as I think it can be, I think people are going to be very excited to take Brian Thomas in like the top 5 or 6 in redraft. And I think that's going to get him into the top 10 in Dynasty. Again, this is one possible outcome. Could I see Puka being ahead of him? Could I see Lamb still being ahead of him? Could I see a quarterback being ahead of him? So I could see plenty of things happening here. Like anybody who actually thinks they have any kind of certainty about this is just stupid. These are all great players, and the order they go in is going to depend a lot on who stays healthy and some random variance that we can't possibly predict. But that's where I'm going to put it. And then we're going to have to go with, let's see here. We're not going to get into any running backs yet. We're going to keep going down here. This is certainly where I could start to see Puka. I could see Drake May. That's a fun pick. Puka's 24 years old. I think we could see an overall wide receiver 1 type of finish from Puka, and he could actually get here. I think it's a tough ask for Lamb, who's going to be 27. Let me see how old he is. When does he turn 27? Okay, he's only 2 months older than Justin Jefferson, so I guess I shouldn't really be holding him to a totally different standard. I don't know. It's making me want to It's making me want to move Jefferson down further. It's really tough. At this rate, we're not going to make it through one round, let alone multiple rounds. All right, let's do this. Let's go Puka. And let's be bold here, okay? Let's be a little bit bold here. Just go on a journey with me, okay? Just go on a journey with me. Allow me to take you on this trip. Okay. Puka Nacua finishes as the overall wide receiver 1. Maybe they get another quarterback. Maybe Matthew Stafford does come back. I think a 25-year-old Puka Nacua can get into the first round of Dynasty startups. Let's say Drake May builds on his rookie year. The offense is better than expected. Kyle Williams is legit. Stephon Diggs still has some gas in the tank. Trevion Henderson leads running backs in receptions. Drake May runs for like 650 yards and 10 touchdowns. Let's just pretend, right? I think Drake May can absolutely pass Joe Burrow, because the thing about Burrow is he's an incredible real-life quarterback, but his value is always going to be tied to his touchdown rate, and that can fluctuate year to year. He can just get unlucky where like his guys get tackled at the 1, or they run in a few more touchdowns than they would otherwise, and he throws 36 instead of 42. And if he's not making enough of a difference in any given season, he's going to move. Like, that's what we see with pocket quarterbacks, is the rankings of them, they just fluctuate year to year. And so it's really easy for me to imagine Joe Burrow dropping a little bit, especially, he'll be 29 next season. There's no concern about his age, but just like when people see 29-year-old quarterback who scored as the QB7 last year, the QB8 last year, if that's what he does, I just don't think that's that exciting for people in the first round. Lamb legitimately has the talent and has the scoring ability to get into this first round. I just think he's going to be 27. He's always kind of been talked about as like a slight tier behind Chase and Jefferson. I think he would have to do a whole lot this year to get back into the first round. And maybe the takeaway from that is that Jefferson is also doomed to fall a little bit, but I struggle to get Lamb higher than that. And then Genty, like, it's just a math thing with running backs. It's not that I hate Jahmyr Gibbs, as Nikolai said. Jahmyr Gibbs will be 24 in March, which is not old at all. Ashton Genty doesn't turn 22 until December. I just think if he scores as well as he's capable of this year, if he scores, let's just pitch a scenario here, right? Let's say Jahmyr Gibbs scores 21 points per game and he's the overall RB1 this year. Or that's not enough points. Let's say Jahmyr Gibbs scores 23 points per game and he's the overall RB1 this year. And then let's say Ashton Genty scores 20.5 points per game and he's the RB4 this year. Don't you think the guy that's 2 years younger that we project to take a year 2 leap, don't you think he's the most likely player to be drafted as the RB1 overall when running back careers are so short? I don't know. Maybe Jahmyr Gibbs has enough just hype behind him as just being like a really sick player that it doesn't matter. Maybe he turns into prime Christian McCaffrey and he just drops way more production on my head than I expect. But I think Ashton Genty being the Dynasty RB1 is like kind of a reasonable median expectation, to be honest with you. I don't know. It feels inevitable to me. Obviously, he could come out and just not be good, and that would change things. But that's how I see it. For what it's worth, I'll put Gibbs right behind him. Which I guess doesn't really make sense if I have Bijan. They're the same age. I have Bijan ranked as the RB1 right now. So I guess if I think Gibbs is going to go ahead of him next year, then I'm being a little bit dishonest with the rankings. So I don't know. In my heart, I want to put Gibbs here, but my rankings have Bijan ahead. I can't really reconcile that, to be honest with you. Something has just subconsciously clicked for me. Maybe I just have more confidence. No, I don't know. I don't have more confidence in the floor because Bijan's going to get more touches. I think I just have to be consistent here. The truth is, I think it's going to be mostly interchangeable again with these three guys. I think they're just all going to be ranked very highly. And now this is where I know that I'm going to be wrong. Like somewhere in here, I'm going to be wrong. Where there's going to be a 101 in here somewhere. There's going to be a quarterback that we don't expect, like a Caleb Williams or like a Justin Herbert, or somebody is going to jump back up. But I think this is a pretty safe place to put the 2026 101. I think you're going to be hard pressed to find a rookie class where the top player in the rookie class was not somewhere in this range. I think just whether it's a quarterback, whether it's Jeremiah Love, somebody's going to be in this range of startup drafts where people are willing to pull the trigger on a rookie. After that then it gets tough. I'll go Trey McBride here in tight end premium. I think if he meets expectations, I think he's going to probably just be able to stick around where he's at. And we'll try to move a little more quickly here. Just don't take any of this too seriously. Don't take it as gospel. We're just having fun, just messing around. I'll actually go, this one's kind of fun. I'll go Drake London at 2.7. He's still 24. I think this offense could be very fantasy friendly for him. I think if he gives us a nice, wide receiver 7, wide receiver 8 type of finish, and some other guys get a little bit older, I think it makes sense that he could be there. And then we get to the question of is Mahomes going to be Mahomes again? And I still kind of lean no. I don't know. I kind of lean no, he's not. I just don't think he has to be with how good their defense is. They're going to lose Rice for part of the year. I don't know. I don't know. I don't buy in a ton to the idea that Mahomes is going to turn back into Mahomes unless they fire Matt Nagy. So I'm going to go Nico, Amon-Ra, and then let's go. I could totally see Caleb here. I could see Nix here. I could see Herbert here. I could even see a CJ Stroud here. But I'm not confident enough in any of those players individually to say that I feel strongly that they're going to get into this range. So I'm going to go Ladd McConkey, and then I'm going to go Amari Hampton, with the caveat that I'm definitely wrong about some of these quarterbacks here. Definitely wrong. One or two of these quarterbacks are going to sneak into the second round. I just don't know who they are. So we're going to push them back a bit. What I'm realizing here is that there's a lot of really good players in Dynasty right now. Kind of a crazy number if you think about it. And I'm going to let Patrick Mahomes stay here in the second round. And then I'm going to give us our 102 pick. 2026 102 right there. First pick of the third round. Okay? Maybe not. It's going to depend a little, I don't know who those prospects are, but we generally do see a lot of hype on those picks. Okay. Then, let's get a little, let's project things out a bit. Let's go. I don't know. Let's say, let's go Tet and Hunter. I think these guys, you know what? Let's just do this. Let's just do this. Let's just do it like this. Everybody gets pushed down a bit in this exercise than where you might expect, because I'm not projecting any shocking busts or players to suffer devastating injuries or whatever. That stuff's going to happen without any of us knowing. And so it might look like these guys are being pushed down, but it just sort of naturally happens. Justin Herbert, I'll throw here in the early third. I do think he's set up for a nice year. I just don't think he's going to climb a ton unless he has a crazy outlier touchdown rate. And then, man, it's very hard. We'll go Caleb Williams here. He probably does enough. He probably does enough to get into this, to stay in this range this year. He has outs to score way higher and gain value. But like, unless it's a total disaster, he probably has enough of a floor to stick there. Then we look at some other players. I'm not a huge Bo Nix guy. I don't think any of these other quarterbacks are going to climb that high. I think this is a pretty easy Trey Hendrickson for me. Let's get a little spicy with it, and then I'll throw in another kicker. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 running backs here. A little bit of a resurgence, but you know, that makes sense with a great class like this. Barkley's been at the top of the queue for a while. I just do not think he's going to stick in this range at all. Again, quarterbacks for sure are going to be littered throughout here. Nix, Stroud, Love, JJ McCarthy, maybe Cam Ward. Like, those guys are definitely going to be in the mix here. The ones that really succeed. But I'll go JSN. Just, I think it makes sense for him to stick in this range with how young he is. I do think he's going to have a high target share. They could have a new quarter. I think if Milrow's the quarterback, he's going to fall. But if they have a new quarterback, or if Darnold looks good, it makes sense for him to be there. I think it's possible, for sure. And then, you know, I don't know. We'll go Bo Nix. People like him. He runs a bit. Put him in there. Marvin Harrison is a guy that I feel like, even if he sucks again this year, people are going to buy back in and just be ready for the year 3 breakout. And then Bucky is where my heart wants to go with this pick. But I also want to throw in some bold ones too. Like, I think JJ McCarthy certainly has that type of a ceiling to get here. I mean, he's not even that far from here right now. If we think Jefferson stays in the top 7, then it's probably a good idea for McCarthy to get into this range. And then let's see here. Let's go Bucky off of a top 5 season. Rashee Rice finishes the fantasy playoffs on an absolute tear after his suspension. Reestablishes himself as the wide receiver 1 for Patrick Mahomes. Throw in another rookie pick here. And you can see, like, some of my convictions are kind of coming out here subconsciously. Like, I'm a little bit worried about Devon Achane's situation next year. I'm worried about the age catching up to Saquon. Let's go. Oh. Hold on. I got to fix this. Hold on. I forgot a player that was too far down. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Hold on. Let me fix this real quick. Hold on. I'll put it back. You want me to go out on a limb? Okay. Here you go. Trevor Lawrence, Bo Nix, Marvin Harrison. And then I forgot who I had. Wasn't there someone? Oh, JJ McCarthy. Bucky Irving. Rashee Rice. And then we'll get Stroud. And let's just live in a world. Let's just live in a world where Cam Ward is good, shall we? Oh, sorry. That's disrespectful to Jordan Love. I also forgot a rookie pick. It's fine. I'll just put it in there. We'll go 2 back-to-back here. Colson Loveland gives us the Sam Laporta type rookie year and gets into the 4th round in tight end premium startups. Let me just see if I'm missing anybody down here. All right, we're going to go one more really bold pick, and then we're going to close this out with some reasonable names. Emeka Egbuka, 4-9. We'll get Devon Achane in here. Garrett Wilson. Saquon Barkley, late 4th. Maybe too high still for Barkley. I'll change him out. I'm going to change him out for Brock Purdy. And we'll get a couple more quarterbacks. We'll get Kyler Murray in here as well. I think he just kind of hangs around, but could certainly go worse for him this year. It's possible. And then let's see. I don't know. I'll put these 2 back to back. I don't really know what order they go in. A couple more rookie picks in here. Doing this just off of the sleeper ADP is very trippy. I should have pulled up my rankings in a separate tab or something. It's a little difficult to see all the names that I would want to see for something like this. Realistically, like somebody's going to come up from the depths and establish themselves here. But I don't have enough conviction in one specific player to just like call my shot on that. There's enough good players up here. We're in the 5th round, looking at Breece Hall, looking at, I think Baker Mayfield regresses. I don't think he's going to be here. I mean, he might be here in this range, but I'm not picking him as like a conviction play. I could see Tyler Warren gaining some value. I think Xavier Worthy has a shot to be here, but I wouldn't necessarily pick it in my like one universe most likely outcome. I think a pretty safe pick in this spot. Let's see, what are we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rookie picks in. I think Michael Penix is like a pretty safe pick in this zone. I think Tyler Warren's a pretty reasonable pick to gain value, like just from a probability standpoint. I think we can go for another pick here. I think we can go. I'm not letting Breece Hall fall out of the whole 5 rounds, I believe. Let's just wait till he signs with the Bears in the offseason, dude. It's going to be absolutely wheels up for Breece Hall. And then from there, like, I don't know. Then it becomes like, am I predicting what I think the ADP is going to be or what it should be? Because, like, people could buy back in on Sam Laporta again. People could buy back in on Kyron again. Jonathan Taylor. Like, realistically, like, Jonathan Taylor's probably still sitting here. I just don't want to put him in the top 5 rounds. I don't really want to. Yeah, I mean, let's explore a little bit of the fringes here. Let's yeah, we can let Baker be a 5th rounder. I think that's fine. Let's get a little bit creative here. Let's go George Pickens, Chris Olave, and then we'll close it out with, oh, I shouldn't have left out T. Higgins. That's a mistake. I shouldn't have left him out. I don't actually think that's going to happen, so let me just fix that. But it would be very fitting for Pickens to end up next to T. Higgins. After that was the comp. Oh, wait, hold on. Just for you guys. All right. So here's my April 2026 startup prediction. It is very loose. It's very vibesy. So should there be an S there? Do not take this too seriously. This is not like if a player you like is lower than you want them to be or whatever, like please defer to the actual rankings for what I think of these guys. But it's an interesting thought exercise and like what could happen to these players' values? What is their range of outcomes? There's guys that I'm lean more towards disappointing this year relative to cost. That's why T. Higgins is lower than he is this year. Doesn't mean I think he's a bad pick. I just think relative to what people expect, he's probably going to end up lower. It doesn't mean he's a bad player, I should say. Rookies are disproportionately more likely to gain value. So it just makes sense to put players like Ibuka and Loveland and Warren up here. Guys like Barkley don't really have anywhere to go but down. So he goes down. Quarterback is tricky because so much of it is just unpredictable. And it's why all of these players are good bets in Lawrence, McCarthy, Stroud, Love. Like they're all good bets in drafts right now because some of them are going to hit probably higher heights than I have ranked here. And yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be, I think those wide receivers in round 2, you can kind of, that's something I feel very strongly about. London, McConkey, Amon-Ra, Nico, like these guys have staying power there with what they're going to score. So yeah, I don't know. You guys can let me know how you think I did. Certainly you can criticize it. But that's where we're going to end things today. Yellow, welcome in. Glad you can make it to the end. Austin, I'm glad you can make it in. I don't know if I actually acknowledged you before. I apologize. I was looking at your messages. I just, I was locked in. I'm sorry that I couldn't get Bishal Tootin here into the list. He probably will be, realistically. But, oh, and this was a funny comment from Nico. Where is Judkins? Don't fumble again. I'm fumbling again, guys. I'm not putting Judkins in my top 5 rounds. It's not happening for me. But yeah, you guys can let me know. I'll post the screenshot and you can let me know in the chat what you think. I'm going to wrap this thing up. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream today. Appreciate you popping out, talking with me. And I hope you all have a good weekend.